Friends are illusions. Every smile can be a mask, every conversation a probe. In power, the ones who seem closest to you are often the ones who already hold your secrets. Trust is the most dangerous drug in the game of power. It blinds, it weakens, it disarms. Men fall not because they are outnumbered, but because they are outmaneuvered. They reveal too much, too early, to those who pretend to be allies. This is the essence of Law 14. Pose as a friend, work as a spy. The strategy is simple, but devastating. The people you want to dominate will guard themselves against open enemies, but they will open their hearts, their plans, their ambitions to those they call friends. By entering their circle under the mask of loyalty, you gain what even armies cannot seize: information. And information is the foundation of power. Throughout history, empires have risen and fallen not by force of arms, but by force of intelligence. The generals who knew their enemies' movements before battle won with ease. The courtiers who knew the king's moods before rivals did shaped destiny. The businessmen who understood a competitor's weakness before negotiations began secured fortunes. In every case, victory belonged not to the strongest, but to the best informed. But information is not taken by violence. It is given freely, carelessly, by those lulled into trust. That is why the role of the friend is the perfect disguise. Under the cloak of companionship, you can observe without suspicion, question without resistance, extract without effort. By the time your target realizes you were never a friend, it is too late. The knowledge you hold makes you untouchable. Psychologically, this law exploits a basic flaw in human nature: the need for connection. People crave allies, confidence, comrades. They want to be understood. And in their eagerness to trust, they hand over the very weapons that will one day be used against them. Even the strongest leaders, the most disciplined minds, long for someone who seems to share their burdens. By posing as that person, you disarm them faster than any blade could. This law also reveals the illusion of friendship itself. In the realm of power, friendship is rarely pure. It is almost always transactional, a form of mutual use. When you approach relationships with this clarity, you stop being the fool who confuses loyalty with leverage. You stop assuming that bonds will protect you. Instead, you recognize that every interaction is an exchange of information, and you ensure you are always the one gaining more than you give. Yet Law 14 is not only about infiltration, it is about protection. If you fail to apply it, others will apply it on you. If you assume your friends are harmless, you will one day wake to find that your most private thoughts, your strategies, your weaknesses are already in someone else's hands. The smile that comforted you was the same smile that betrayed you. In power, paranoia is not sickness. It is survival. This law demands that you cultivate a dual identity. Outwardly, you must appear genuine, reliable, trustworthy. Inwardly, you must remain detached, calculating, cold. The danger lies not in pretending to be a friend, but in believing you are one. Never confuse the role with the reality. Your objective is not loyalty, it is intelligence. The brilliance of this law lies in its efficiency. Armies cost gold. Fortresses take decades to build. But information, secured through trust, costs nothing. A single secret revealed by a careless friend can topple kingdoms. A whispered confession can ruin reputations. A well-timed piece of intelligence can turn negotiations from loss to victory. Information is leverage, and the friend is the perfect disguise for acquiring it. In this chapter, we will trace the story of one of history's greatest practitioners of this law, a man who posed as a companion while gathering the secrets of an empire. We will explore the psychological mechanisms that make people reveal themselves to those they trust. We will examine modern cases where CEOs, politicians, and manipulators used friendship as a cloak for intelligence gathering. We will expose the rookie mistakes of those who confuse true friendship with power. And finally, we will arm you with practical tactics, how to play the role of ally, how to extract information without suspicion, and how to guard yourself against those who would do the same to you. Because in the end, the lesson is brutal but clear. Your enemies will never harm you as deeply as your friends. Enemies attack from the outside. Friends open the gates from within. To survive, you must master the art of being the friend who listens, who nods, who encourages, while your mind remains the spy, always collecting, always calculating, always ready to strike. Main historical example. In the 15th century, France was a kingdom caught between enemies abroad and intrigue at home. The crown was fragile, nobles were restless, and foreign powers, especially Burgundy and England, threatened from every direction. Into this storm stepped Louis I, remembered not as a gallant knight or shining monarch, but as something darker, a spider spinning webs of manipulation. He earned the name the Spider King because his power was built not on open battles, but on hidden networks of spies. And the brilliance of his method lay in one simple rule. He posed as a friend while working as an enemy. Louis understood better than any ruler of his time that information was the lifeblood of power. He had watched kings fall because they trusted the wrong men, revealed too much, or underestimated rivals. He swore never to repeat their mistakes. Instead, he cultivated a reputation for friendliness, charm, and accessibility. While other monarchs cloaked themselves in distance and majesty, Louis presented himself as approachable, willing to listen, almost humble. His courtiers mistook this posture for weakness. In reality, it was bait. Nobles and envoys would confide in him, believing they had the king's ear as a friend. He flattered them, sympathized with their grievances, shared wine at his table. But while they spoke freely, Louis listened with calculation. Every casual remark, every complaint, every careless boast was stored and later weaponized. What seemed like a friendship was in truth a surveillance operation. Louis extended this strategy beyond his own court. He placed agents disguised as merchants, priests, and servants in the courts of rival kingdoms. These spies would present themselves as allies, companions, or useful confidants. Once trusted, they extracted secrets and sent them back to France. Burgundian dukes, believing they were speaking to loyal associates, in reality were feeding intelligence straight into Louis's hands. The power of this network revealed itself during Louis's long conflict with Charles the Bold, Duke of Burgundy. Charles was a warrior, proud and aggressive. He trusted brute strength, fortresses, and armies. Louis trusted deception, patience, and intelligence. While Charles marched and fought, Louis infiltrated his circle. French agents, posing as friends and servants, reported Charles's strategies in advance. Louis often knew his enemies' movements before they happened. He outmaneuvered Charles not by facing him directly, but by weaving webs around him, slowly choking his options. The contrast between the two men became legend. Charles was a soldier who believed in the honesty of steel. Louis was a spider who believed in the treachery of words. In the end, Charles's brute force failed. He died in battle, his ambitions shattered. Louis, by contrast, secured Burgundy's lands for France, and expanded royal authority. His victory was not won on the battlefield. It was won in whispers, in letters, in the careless confessions of those who mistook his friendliness for loyalty. The legacy of Louis I is instructive. He was not beloved, he was not admired as a noble king, but he was feared and effective. His enemies called him deceitful, two-faced, manipulative. Yet he outlived them, outplayed them, and left France stronger than he found it. The very traits that made him hated made him successful. His story demonstrates the brutal logic of Law 14. When you present yourself as a friend, you lower defenses. People reveal more to those they trust than to those they fear. Once they reveal themselves, they are vulnerable, and you gain the power to control them. Louis I did not need to guess his enemies' strategies. He was handed them. He did not need to buy loyalty with gold. He bought it with the illusion of friendship. He proved that in politics, one well-placed spy disguised as an ally can be more decisive than 10,000 soldiers. The Spider King's reign carved into history a lesson that remains true in every boardroom, every negotiation, every circle of influence today. Information rules, and the surest way to acquire it is not to demand, but to be given it freely, by those who think you are their friend. Psychological/strategic mechanism. Why does Law 14 work so ruthlessly well? Why do even the most cautious leaders, the most disciplined strategists, the most skeptical minds still fall victim to spies disguised as friends? The answer lies in psychology, in the deep architecture of human social instincts. This law is not merely about deception. It is about exploiting vulnerabilities built into the human brain. The first mechanism is the craving for connection. Humans are social animals. Isolation is painful, even dangerous. From tribes to families to nations, survival has always depended on allies. Our brains evolved to seek trust, to value friendship, to confide in those who seem close. This instinct is so strong that it overrides logic. Even when suspicion whispers that a friend might betray us, the need for connection silences it. We want to believe in loyalty, so we ignore warning signs. The spy thrives on this blindness. The second mechanism is the illusion of intimacy. When someone listens carefully, nods, and sympathizes, we interpret it as friendship. In reality, listening is one of the most powerful tools of extraction. People reveal themselves not because they are forced, but because they are heard. A rival who poses as a confidant does not need to ask probing questions. He only needs to provide silence, encouragement, and the illusion of understanding. The victim, eager to be recognized, fills the silence with secrets. In power, the best spies rarely speak. They let others talk. Third is the trust shortcut. Genuine friendships take years to form, but humans often bypass that timeline when certain signals appear: shared values, common enemies, mutual vulnerability. A manipulator who imitates these signals can accelerate trust artificially. By mirroring opinions, feigning similar struggles, or inventing shared rivals, the spy creates the illusion of deep connection. The victim feels, "This person understands me," when in reality, they are being studied. Another psychological lever is ego affirmation. People reveal more to those who make them feel admired. A friend who flatters us, who reinforces our identity, becomes the person we want to confide in. The more someone makes us feel powerful, intelligent, or special, the more we drop our guard. Flattery disarms suspicion, and once disarmed, the victim pours out truths they would never reveal to an open rival. The spy, cloaked in admiration, is more dangerous than the enemy armed with a sword. This law also exploits the blindness of routine. We expect enemies to plot, but we expect friends to protect. Once someone is labeled ally, the mind categorizes them as safe. From that moment, their actions are interpreted in the most favorable light. A probing question is seen as curiosity, not suspicion. A request for details is seen as interest, not manipulation. The spy knows this and hides in plain sight. Their greatest weapon is the category our brain has already assigned them: friend. On a strategic level, information is power because it creates asymmetry. Knowledge is leverage. The one who knows more controls the game. In negotiations, information about the other side's bottom line determines victory. In politics, knowledge of a rival's weaknesses dictates survival. On the battlefield, intelligence on troop movements decides life or death. And in every case, the easiest way to acquire this information is not through force, but through friendship. Enemies guard against hostility. They do not guard against kindness. There is also a biological explanation rooted in dopamine and oxytocin. When we feel friendship, our brain releases chemicals associated with bonding. These chemicals lower defenses, reduce suspicion, and make us more likely to disclose personal information. In short, friendship literally changes the chemistry of the brain, making people more vulnerable to manipulation. The spy is not just deceiving the mind, he is hijacking the body. Strategically, this law also reveals the importance of detachment. The danger for the manipulator is believing in his own disguise. If you forget that friendship is only a mask, you risk revealing yourself, or worse, becoming emotionally attached to your target. Masters like Louis I never confused role with reality. They understood that their friendship was performance, and performance alone. The spy must remain cold even while acting warm. This detachment is what separates the strategist from the fool. Finally, Law 14 thrives because of the asymmetry of betrayal. The pain of betrayal by a friend is greater than an attack by an enemy. An enemy is expected to harm you. A friend is not. This emotional shock magnifies the effect of intelligence gained. When betrayal is revealed, it is often too late. The damage is already done. This asymmetry ensures that the spy always has the advantage. By the time the victim realizes the truth, the secrets have been collected, the leverage secured, the trap closed. In essence, the psychological and strategic mechanism of this law is simple but devastating. Humans crave friends. They reveal themselves to those they trust. They lower defenses for those who flatter, listen, and mirror. Once labeled a friend, a spy becomes invisible. Information flows freely, and power follows. That is why, in the game of power, the friend is more dangerous than the enemy. The enemy sharpens your vigilance. The friend dulls it. To master this law, you must learn both to wear the mask of friendship and to pierce it when others wear it against you. Secondary examples. One of the clearest examples of Law 14 in modern politics is Richard Nixon. During his rise to power, Nixon was obsessed with gathering intelligence on rivals. His famous downfall in the Watergate scandal was extreme, but before that collapse, his ability to plant informants and pose as an ally gave him enormous leverage. He befriended political figures, collected information about their vulnerabilities, and used it to manipulate alliances. His tragedy was not in misunderstanding the law, but in pushing it so far that the mask slipped. Even in failure, his story demonstrates how the hunger for intelligence disguised as friendship can shape governments. In corporate history, John D. Rockefeller relied heavily on information networks. Competitors thought they had loyal partners in joint ventures, only to realize later that Rockefeller's associates were quietly feeding him data on their costs, supply chains, and weaknesses. These friendly partners helped Standard Oil undercut rivals and absorb their companies. By the time they realized the betrayal, it was too late. Rockefeller's empire already owned the market. He did not storm them with hostility. He disarmed them with partnership and extracted their secrets. The world of espionage is built entirely on this law. Consider the case of Aldrich Ames, a CIA officer who spied for the Soviet Union. To his colleagues, he was a friend, a fellow agent, someone to trust. He drank with them, shared stories, built camaraderie. Meanwhile, he was feeding Moscow the most devastating intelligence breaches of the Cold War. The Soviets did not need to steal secrets through force. Ames delivered them, wrapped in the disguise of friendship. Another striking example comes from Mao Zedong during the Chinese Revolution. Mao built networks of informants, not by intimidation alone, but by cultivating relationships. He posed as a comrade, someone who shared the struggles of peasants and soldiers. In reality, he was mapping loyalties, weaknesses, and potential betrayals. When the time came, Mao always seemed one step ahead of rivals. He knew who would defect, who would resist, who could be bought. His mask of solidarity hid the constant gathering of intelligence. Even in smaller, more personal arenas, this law applies. In the business world, countless entrepreneurs have fallen because they confided too much to friendly collaborators. A partner who seems supportive may be probing for your ideas, strategies, or contacts. Information they later use to launch a competing venture. The betrayal feels more brutal because it comes from a friend, but the mechanics are the same. Posing as an ally to gather intelligence. And in organized crime, this law is almost cliché. Mobsters often use friends to gather information before strikes. A man at the bar, sharing drinks, listening carefully, may appear harmless, yet he is reporting everything back to the boss. Many gangland assassinations began with a handshake and a smile. In that world, paranoia is survival. Those who forget the lesson of Law 14 rarely last long. Across these stories, the pattern repeats. Trust is the gateway. The spy wears the mask of allyship. Secrets are revealed freely, without coercion. And when the mask drops, the victim realizes too late that every word spoken, every plan revealed, has already been weaponized. The smiling friend was never a friend at all. Beginner mistakes. Every law of power is a double-edged sword. For those who understand its subtleties, Law 14 is one of the most devastating weapons in existence. But for those who misuse it or misunderstand it, it becomes a liability. The failures of amateurs who try to pose as friends reveal not only why they collapse, but also why mastery of this law demands discipline, patience, and restraint. The first mistake beginners make is being too obvious. They approach targets with exaggerated friendliness, constant praise, and transparent attempts to build trust. This makes the mask suspicious, rather than convincing. A true spy must blend into the environment. If you appear too eager to be someone's friend, they will sense the manipulation. The key is subtlety. Friendship must feel organic, not engineered. Overacting is the surest way to reveal yourself. A second mistake is talking too much. Amateurs confuse posing as a friend with dominating conversations. They think friendship means sharing everything, telling stories, revealing personal details. But the power of the spy lies in silence. You do not win information by speaking. You win it by listening. Beginners sabotage themselves by revealing more than they collect, giving the other person intelligence while gaining nothing in return. They forget that every word you give away can be used against you. The third mistake is believing in the friendship. A novice begins the role as performance, but ends up emotionally invested. They mistake their mask for reality, start to care about the target, and eventually protect, rather than exploit them. In doing so, they abandon the cold detachment required for the law to work. Many spies in history were caught not by exposure, but by attachment. They could not betray those they pretended to befriend. The moment you care, you lose the strategic distance that keeps you in control. Another error lies in over-reliance. Beginners who discover the power of information through friendship begin to depend on it too heavily. They stop cultivating other sources of intelligence, other strategies of power, and believe the mask of friendship is enough. This makes them predictable. Once others learn they always play the friendly spy, defenses are raised, and the tactic loses effect. A master uses this law selectively, as one tool among many. An amateur uses it everywhere, exposing their pattern. A fifth mistake is confusing gossip with intelligence. Many novices pose as friends to collect rumors, trivial secrets, or emotional confessions. They mistake this for power. But true intelligence is strategic. Plans, resources, weaknesses, alliances. Knowing someone's love life may feel powerful, but unless it grants leverage, it is useless. Worse, chasing gossip can backfire, as it signals nosiness and raises suspicion. The master extracts only what matters and discards the rest. Another fatal mistake is failing to control body language and tone. People can sense insincerity not through words, but through micro-expressions, forced smiles, nervous gestures, inconsistent eye contact. An amateur who cannot regulate their emotions will eventually betray their real intent. They forget that posing as a friend is theater. Every performance requires rehearsal, discipline, and consistency. Timing also ruins beginners. They press too early, asking for secrets before trust is established. Friendship is a mask, but it must be worn long enough to be convincing. Amateurs reveal their hunger by rushing the process, leaving their targets wary. Masters wait, sometimes for months, until the target no longer realizes information is being given away. The longer you play the role, the deeper the trap. A dangerous mistake is revealing loyalty to multiple sides. Some beginners try to pose as a friend to several conflicting parties at once. Inevitably, one learns of the duplicity and the spy is destroyed. A master keeps their masks separate, compartmentalizing relationships so no thread connects them. Amateurs are careless, leaving traces that expose them to everyone. Another common error is arrogance. Once a beginner secures a secret, they boast, leak, or act in ways that reveal their knowledge. This exposes the source and confirms suspicion. The value of intelligence lies not in knowing it, but in how you use it. Bragging about secrets gained through friendship betrays both the target and the spy. A master uses information quietly, strategically, often letting rivals wonder how it was acquired. The amateur reveals themselves in the glow of their own ego. Finally, perhaps the most dangerous mistake of all is failing to defend against others using this law. Beginners are so focused on their role as spies that they forget others may be doing the same to them. They confide too freely, drop their own guard, and reveal weaknesses to those who mirror their tactics. In trying to use the law, they become victims of it. Masters remain paranoid even while playing the spy. They guard their own information more fiercely than they seek others. The pattern of failure is clear. Amateurs expose themselves by overacting, oversharing, over-relying, or over-believing. They mistake gossip for power, rush the process, or let arrogance betray them. They confuse friendship with loyalty, mask with reality. In the end, they collapse because they forget the core principle. Friendship in the game of power is always performance, never truth. If you cannot act with cold detachment, if you cannot remain disciplined in silence, if you cannot resist the temptation to believe in your own disguise, this law will destroy you. It will expose you, ruin your reputation, and hand power to others. But if you master it, if you remain calm, calculated, and detached, you will see what others never see, and you will control battles before they begin. Actionable tactics. Law 14 is dangerous not only because it grants power, but because it exposes you to risk if used clumsily. To apply it effectively, you must master the art of duality, the warmth of friendship on the surface, the cold precision of espionage beneath. What follows are tactics to make the law actionable in every sphere of power. The first tactic is the listener's mask. True spies speak less than they hear. People are desperate for listeners, and silence is often interpreted as trust. When you pose as a friend, let the other speak. Nod, affirm, sympathize. Resist the urge to fill silence with your own stories. The more space you give them, the more they will reveal. Listening is not passivity, it is extraction. Second is the mirror technique. We trust those who resemble us. By subtly mirroring body language, tone, and opinions, you accelerate intimacy. Agree on small details, reflect emotions, adopt their concerns as your own. This creates the illusion of shared identity. Once convinced that you are like them, they will confide without hesitation. Third, practice the casual probe. Direct questions raise suspicion, but casual remarks invite disclosure. Instead of asking, "What are your plans for the deal?" say, "This must be a stressful time for you." The target, eager to unburden themselves, fills the gap with details. Small, open-ended prompts can yield more than aggressive interrogation. Fourth, use strategic vulnerability. Offer a minor secret of your own, something harmless but seemingly intimate. This triggers reciprocity. Humans feel compelled to respond in kind. Reveal a trivial struggle, a personal anecdote, or a mild weakness. The victim feels balance restored and rewards you with their own, often far more valuable, secret. Fifth, apply the layered ask. Do not seek crucial information at once. Begin with trivial questions, build comfort, then escalate gradually. Each layer deepens trust until your target no longer realizes how much they have revealed. By the time you reach the critical ask, it feels like a natural continuation of friendly conversation. Another powerful tool is the echo of loyalty. Frame yourself as someone who defends their reputation or shares their enemies. Casual phrases like, "I know how frustrating that person must be for you," create bonds. Aligning against a shared rival cements the illusion of camaraderie, prompting disclosures meant to strengthen the alliance. Seventh, master the social web. Friendship is rarely one-to-one. By embedding yourself in a group, you multiply information sources, gain trust with one member, then cross-reference what others say. Inconsistencies reveal hidden truths. Spies thrive not by listening to one voice, but by weaving a net that catches all. Eighth, practice the withheld response. When someone confides in you, resist the urge to react strongly. Neutral or measured responses encourage them to continue. Too much excitement or judgment may shut them down. Calm acknowledgement is the lubricant of disclosure. Ninth, employ the deferred favor. Offer help but delay delivering it. The anticipation keeps them engaged, grateful, and eager to share more in the meantime. By the time the favor is delivered, if at all, you will already have gathered what you need. 10th, protect yourself with the double mask. Remember that others may use this law against you. Guard your words, even with friends. Before disclosing anything, ask yourself, if this information were used against me, how damaging would it be? Reveal only what strengthens your image or misleads rivals. Keep true vulnerabilities locked away. 11th, use the selective echo. Repeat back certain pieces of what your target says, as if to confirm or admire them. This makes them feel validated and encourages them to expand. A simple, "That's interesting," "You think they're moving too fast?" can open a flood of insider details. 12th, apply the shadow role. Offer to assist in tasks where information flows freely, helping prepare documents, attending meetings, or supporting logistics. You appear helpful, but in reality, you position yourself close to the currents of knowledge. Many secretaries, aides, and advisors throughout history gained more influence than generals because they controlled the flow of information. 13th, build the controlled leak. Occasionally share a small, curated piece of information. Something true but insignificant. It builds credibility and convinces your target that you are open. Once convinced of your honesty, they respond with greater openness of their own. 14th, wield the rehearsed naivety. Pretend ignorance about a subject to invite explanation. People love to feel superior. By asking innocent questions, you encourage them to reveal more than they intended. Naive curiosity is often more effective than sharp interrogation. Finally, always maintain the detachment principle. Never let the mask consume you. Friendship in this context is theater, not truth. Do not confuse role with reality. The moment you start believing in the bond you've created, you risk exposure. Keep emotional distance. To you, the person is not a friend. They are a source. These tactics allow you to harvest information systematically, invisibly, under the guise of loyalty. But they also remind you to defend against the same. The mask of friendship is the most dangerous disguise in power. Use it wisely, expect it constantly, and never assume that smiles mean safety. Conclusion. Power is not taken by force alone. It is taken by information. Armies can be resisted. Wealth can be stolen. But knowledge slips past defenses unseen. This is why Law 14 is among the most dangerous of all. Enemies attack you from the front, but friends cut you open from within. Louis I mastered this law not with swords, but with smiles. Rockefeller built empires by learning what his rivals thought were safe confidences. Modern politicians have risen and fallen because they trusted too freely, mistaking friendliness for loyalty. The truth is brutal. In the game of power, friendship is rarely pure. It is a mask, and often a trap. The psychology behind this law reveals why it works so perfectly. Humans crave connection. We long for allies, confidants, and companions. We are flattered by attention, lulled by sympathy, seduced by shared laughter. And in those moments of comfort, we reveal the very secrets that make us vulnerable. We speak without filters, forgetting that every word can be weaponized. To live without mastering this law is to live exposed. It means leaving your strategies, your weaknesses, your ambitions in the hands of those who smile at you today, but may betray you tomorrow. It means mistaking pity for protection, or loyalty for permanence. History has shown again and again that those who trust blindly are destroyed blindly. To master this law, you must embrace duality. Outwardly, Appear loyal, attentive, supportive. Inwardly, remain cold, detached, calculating. Extract more than you reveal, hear more than you say, and never confuse the role of friend with the reality of power. Information, not affection, determines survival. This law also demands vigilance in defense. Assume that others are applying it to you. Guard your words, even with those you trust most. Share only what strengthens your image or what misleads. Never hand over weapons to someone who may one day aim them at you. Paranoia in this realm is not weakness, it is wisdom. The distinction between winners and losers in the power game often comes down to this. The losers confide, the winners listen. The losers believe in loyalty, the winners collect intelligence. The losers mistake companionship for safety. The winners understand that safety is an illusion. In the end, the lesson of Law 14 is stark. Your enemies cannot destroy you without access. Your friends give them that access. Pose as a friend, and you gain what no enemy can steal. Forget this law, and you will fall not to armies, but to whispers. If this breakdown sharpened your perception, subscribe to this channel, because knowledge here is not comfort, it is survival. Next time, we'll expose Law 15. How crushing your enemy completely is the only way to prevent their return. Don't miss it.